Did you know that St. Luke's University Health Network, based in the Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, has been recognized by the U.S. government as the highest performing health system in the United States for quality? You heard right. St. Luke's #1 recognition affirms our status as the top leader among the most respected healthcare providers in the nation, including Houston Methodist and the Mayo Clinic. To state it simply, if you want to receive the best care when you go to a hospital, come to St. Luke's.
The Larry Kudlow Show. Entertaining and informative. On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
So I just want to repeat the number that we had earlier, comparing USA economy and China's economy. On a per capita basis, the United States is slightly over $90,000 per person. China is slightly under $14,000 per person. China is in a virtual recession, and even despite oil prices, the United States is posting unbelievable numbers. By the way, the Atlanta Federal Reserve GDP has now got 4% growth in the second quarter after better than 2% growth in the first quarter. So let us bring in two very distinguished economics professors and dear friends of mine. Art Laffer is the chairman and chief economist of Laffer Associates. He was a Presidential Medal of Freedom recipient. I was in the room when he got it. His latest book is The Trump Economic Miracle and the Plan to Unleash Prosperity Again, co-authored with Steve Moore, who will be with us later in the show, and the great Steve Forbes, chairman and editor-in-chief of Forbes Media. Steve's latest book, Inflation, What It Is, Why It's Bad, and How to Fix It. Gentlemen, thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. Every now and then, it's fun. Steve Forbes, let me begin with you. Knowing your interest in foreign policy, what'd you make of this Trump-Xi so-called summit in Beijing?
Well, I think the key thing is what didn't happen. The trade deals, that's going to have to come later. But the big thing is that, Larry's what President Trump does when he gets home. Xi has pushed, as you know, very hard on Taiwan. The president, I'm sure, tried to be polite, but the key thing he has to do now to make sure there's no ambiguity about where Taiwan stands is to go ahead with that $14 billion arms sale that has been approved. It's still sitting on the president's desk. He should say that we've been doing arms sales to Taiwan for 50 years since normalization of relations. That's part of that pattern. That sale is going ahead. Xi's trying to send it off the road into a ditch. The president should go ahead with that. The other thing the president should do, and they've hinted at it with the Pentagon, is to reassure our Asian allies by going ahead with the idea of building some of our naval ships in South Korean and Japanese naval yards, where their shipbuilding techniques, sadly, in many ways, are far ahead of ours. You do that reassures the Asian allies. We're not going to take a powder on the region. You go ahead with that arms sales. You have no ambiguity about Trump abandoning Taiwan.
I don't think he will. I mean, he's just holding back. I don't think he will at all. In fact, I think, it's interesting, Steve. Art, be right with you in a second. Yeah. Interesting, Steve. A lot of people thought President Trump might bend to Xi on Taiwan, but there's no evidence of that. None. No,
and just to make sure Xi doesn't misinterpret, some people like to hear what they want to hear. Going ahead with that arms sale, I think, would just make it very clear nothing's changed.
Yes, no, I agree 100% on that, 100%. Art Laffer, way back in the last century, you were involved in some of the early China work. Listen, we all go back into the last century, so it's okay. But their economy, I would argue their economy is deteriorating. And I can use numbers, but numbers probably don't mean anything in China. I mean, when they get a bad number, they just don't post the number anymore. But on a per capita basis, we have a 7-fold larger economy than they do. But they've been in a slump or recession or a property bust for years. So I don't know how they get off thinking, that they're puffed up and they're this great superpower.
I totally agree. Xi has changed the structure of Chinese policies dramatically, and all for the worse.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go back to 1970, China was a hermit kingdom there. They've grown something like 66-fold in real GDP per person, while we grew 5 or 6-fold. I mean, they were the miracle supply side. They found money. They opened up trade. They cut taxes dramatically. And Xi has, in the last 5, 6 years, reversed all of those policies. He's become a threat to business, to private enterprise. And I really think that what happened to Japan in 1989 is happening to China right now, and that in 10 or 15 years, China will not be nearly the power it is today. I think there's been a complete reversal. And that's really sad because, we should be the best trading partners China ever had and vice versa. But I don't think that's in the cards.
It's interesting. Listen, I saw it, Art, when I was on the China trade team in Trump's first term, and I saw it. Despite one or two people that were genuine reformers, all the others that she sent to various trade meetings, and we had so many of them in Washington and Beijing, one after another, they're a bunch of statist communist thugs. That's all they were. In fact, the communist thugs were sent to make sure that the one or two reformers didn't get away with anything. Didn't make any promises they couldn't keep. So it's you, and it looks like the economic story there is getting worse, Art. I mean, they don't fess up exactly the numbers, right? But they used to post 15% GDP plus. Now they're posting 5%, and it's a lot lower than that.
And it's descending, not ascending. It's
Yeah.
Xi is in a sinking ship, and it's going to take a long time to sink. But it's really very sad to see what he's done, because it was such a miracle there. It was like Chile in South America, just this explosion and then the drop. Now, Chile's come back again, but there's no chance that China does. None. I mean, they're just on the wrong track, and Xi is just pushing his authoritarian rule over the private sector. And it is really tragic, because we could be great partners with China, and that's not going to happen, I don't think.
I saw somebody, I'm not sure who it was, but one of the market analysts, who covers China and the international stocks. Anyway, the Chinese stock market hasn't moved in over 5 years. It's just flat pancake. And the U.S. stock market has been booming, for a number of and continues to boom, I might add. In fact, our whole economy looks like it's booming, Arthur. I mean, are you
It is.
Atlanta GDP now 4% in the second quarter. You saw the production and manufacturing numbers out yesterday, and retail sales the day before. I know oil prices are high, although oil's available, gasoline is available. It's not a supply shock, but it's a price adjustment. But whatever, we're booming.
Well, we've got the policies, Larry. I mean, the president has put in a phenomenal set of policies across the board, the BBB, the tax cuts, all of that stuff. And now with Kevin Warshing at the Fed, I think the Fed's going to be a lot better. And then looking at this stuff, the trade policies that Trump is doing and negotiating with, I think are all in phenomenal situation for a really expansive U.S. economy for a number of years to come.
Yes, I hope so. Steve Forbes, let me just go back to the Xi thing, because each country put out its own statement, so there was no, joint communique, as there sometimes is after these things. But anyway, each country put out its own. The top of the list for China's communique or statement was Taiwan, as we discussed a few moments ago. The top of our list was Iran. Now, here's the thing, Steve. China's saying, okay, and it's kind of a freebie. They're saying, yeah, we agree the Strait of Hormuz should be reopened. We agree, and there should not be a toll. Okay, that's pretty easy for them to say, right? But they are the ones who helped create Iran, because they buy 90% of Iran's oil exports, and therefore they are the banker and the financier of the Iran attempts at nuclear weapons and missiles and ICBMs and sponsorship of terror in Hezbollah and Hamas and Houthis and all the rest of it. Do you follow? I mean, I gotta love China's chutzpah, okay, or chutzpah, whatever the right word is. They're the ones who finance Iran. You could say they created Iran. Now they're saying, oh yeah, let's open up the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, I just find that incredible.
Well, two things on that. One, it underscores why the sooner we get back to doing what we were doing before this ceasefire, which I think was a major mistake, go back, complete those targets, take out that regime. The Army will move against the regime if it feels we're not going to pull the rug out from under them. But also talking about, gee, China, it's great you love the international traffic in the Strait of Hormuz, and we believe the same thing for the South China Sea. They've been trying to put in man-made military islands to control the South China Sea, and we should make a statement again. Jefferson was right. Freedom of navigation, and maybe we'll put our own man-made island and call it the Trump Island in the South China Sea, and make very clear that's going to remain an open waterway, just as the Strait of Hormuz is going to be an open waterway, period.
You know, Steve, I've already changed the Persian Gulf to the Trump Gulf. Now we have the Gulf of America. I had an admiral on the TV show who said I should stop calling it the Persian Gulf. I should call it the Arabian Gulf, which, by the way, I might be okay with the Arabian Gulf. But I don't know. I rethought about it. So
how about the Laffer Kudlow Gulf?
No,
supply side Gulf.
A supply side Gulf.
Freedom. We believe in freedom. We believe in growth. You know, you and Arthur helped save civilization in the early 80s, late 70s. Got to do it again. So,
Steve Forbes, you are part and parcel.
Isn't he wonderful? Isn't he wonderful, Larry? He's just terrific.
He is part and parcel of that. We both backed you for Arthur and I both backed you for president. 100%. Both times. I still think your platform would work. I mean, actually, it's funny. Trump winds up moving the ball in your direction, and not quite on every area, but certainly on taxes and regulations. But you were there first a good many years ago.
I learned from the best. We're talking to the two of them now. I am.
Well, I learned from the best also. How about, let's take a break. I want to talk about a bunch of other things. We got interest rate issues. We got Federal Reserve. We got Kevin Warsh coming in. You guys are both experts on that. And we got some politics to cover as well. Folks, if you hadn't guessed, we are two of the greatest of the great. I just want to say that, both of whom have taught me enormously down through the years. Art Laffer, number one. Steve Forbes, number two. In no particular order. I'm Kudlow. Will all three of us be right back.
The Larry Kudlow Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Larry Kudlow Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And we're going to continue the conversation with two of my dearest friends and literally smartest people I know, Dr. Arthur Laffer, who was a Presidential Medal of Freedom recipient. God bless, I was in the Oval Office when he got it from President Trump. Arthur's latest book with Steve Morris, Trump Economic Miracle. And Steve Forbes, whom I've known all these years, backed him for president twice. He and I, going way back in the early 90s, helped get a big fat tax cut and a gubernatorial win from Christine Todd Whitman, who it turned out, Steve, really when you scratch that whole story, John Whitman became the devout supply sider. The late John Whitman, who was a lovely guy. She kind of got cold feet after the first term, but let's not go there. Anyway, Steve's...
Well, that was the last time New Jersey did something right on taxes 30
right.
years ago.
No, that's right. You and I worked on it. Paul Gigot was shilling for us in the paper. It was great stuff. Anyway, Steve, of course, chairman, editor-in-chief Forbes Media, and his latest book is Inflation, What It Is, Why It's Bad, and How to Fix It. So, fellas, a few moments Bond yields are rising globally, actually. A lot of it's tied to the energy story. And the CPI is, we got a CPI. So the 12-month CPI top line, 3.8%. That includes energy. The core CPI, 2.8% over the past year. It's not the worst thing in the world. Kevin Warsh has taken over at the Fed. Steve Forbes, what do you want to see him do? I mean, it's not going to be easy, but what do you think you should focus on?
I think he should focus right away after the swearing in that the Federal Reserve does not believe that prosperity causes inflation, and that there's going to put the forces in place to change the Fed's economic models. The rest of the world won't pay attention, but inside that'll be a hydrogen bomb, a good one. We're going to clean out the debris of the past that has held America back and get some sensible models in, and then things like interest rates, you could say, will start to take care of themselves. That's an important point. If he articulates that in, let's say, early speeches, or maybe his first major speech, whatever, that will have an important effect on economic policies all around the world, including central bankers. But, you haven't had anybody say that. Now, President Trump says that, all right, and says it very eloquently, but it doesn't seem to spread beyond that. I mean, Warsh can really help Trump and the whole pro-growth supply-side movement. Yes, he could have the same impact, Warsh, that Reagan did in the early 80s with tax cuts, which were imitated by one degree or another with 50 countries around the world. If he starts to say central bank is now going to pay attention to the real economy, is going to not believe prosperity causes inflation, and you do that and start to pay attention to values of currencies, which none of them talk about, you start to do that, that's going to start to have an impact in the next few years on central banking everywhere and on the economics profession.
Arthur said there's no reason why central bankers can't, take prominent positions on economic policy. I mean, after World War II, for example, during and after World War II, Mariner Eccles, who was a pal of FDR's, was a devout Keynesian, Art, and he argued that again and again and again. They didn't even want to replace him. So it'll be interesting if Kevin Warsh goes down that road.
Yeah, well, Kevin Warsh should be our modern-day Paul Volcker. Without Volcker, Reagan would have been not nearly as effective as he was. And I agree with Steve 100% that prosperity does not cause inflation. That's just plain silly. But the other side of the coin is what you need to do is get a spot commodity price index and stabilize it over the long run to bring an inflationless world. I think this 2% stuff per year doesn't make sense. I would like to see the dollar stable in value. And the way Volcker did it was, if there's too much inflation, what you do is you sell bonds in the open market and you shrink the monetary base, you shrink the balance sheet, and that way you can really control inflation for the long run. So it's not only discarding the bad, which Steve is 100% right on, it's also adopting the good, which is going back to a price rule, monetary policy.
And the nice thing, the way Art puts it, spot commodity index, it can disguise return to a gold standard, but not using the word gold, so people don't get all frizzled up.
Well, I was waiting for those two words, price rule. I mean, that's, listen, in the 80s, Wayne Angel pushed the price rule, remember? You got to give him he never got enough credit for it. People thought he was an eccentric. He wasn't. He was a very smart economist and, I might add, commodities trader. Alan Greenspan did until the end, until his last term. I mean, Greenspan would go in front of Congress and talk about the gold price, what it meant, why it shouldn't be soaring. It's very interesting. It's not that long ago that price rules were in vogue. And you're right, Art. You buy bonds, you're increasing the base. If you sell bonds, you're reducing the base. Should he sell bonds now?
Yes. We've got an inflation issue today. Now, if the price of oil comes way down, you may want to mitigate that and not sell so many. But, we need to get control of that. Now, it took Volcker probably a year and a half to get control of the Fed when he first came in. It will not be easy for Kevin Warsh to get the cooperation of the rest of the board right away. It just won't be easy for him. But he should start on that process just the way Volcker did it when he was first appointed. Just take your time and get it right. And if he does that, we are in for a long prosperity. There's nothing more important than price stability, as you two have taught me over the years. It's just the key. It's a sine qua non of prosperity, stable, valued currency.
Yeah, we don't hit 2% anyway. I mean, Jay Powell's nowhere near 2%. I don't know when was the last time we had 2%. It was probably in the 1990s. Anyway, gentlemen, I'm most grateful. Thank you so much. Art Laffer, the best of the best. Steve Forbes, the best of the best. Doesn't get any better than that, folks, for you and me. Anyway, we will take a break, and we'll keep the economic beat up with John Carney and Joe Livornia. I'm Kudlow.
The Larry Kudlow Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.